Now, Pavarotti was a good friend.
And let's listen to Pavarotti. Put on Pavarotti.
Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes, and these are my opinions, and I'm not here to slander anyone. I will provide information. I will give my opinion on the information I provide. My opinion's mine and mine alone. So let's get started. You know, it's interesting. As much time and effort as I put into this case, I learn a lot of things and I share a lot of things. But I also hear a lot of things out there in the YouTube sphere. And, you know, I have people designated to try to refute the information that I provide. And sometimes I listen to those folks and I don't really dig in any further because I think that, you know, they know what they're talking about. But there's an old adage in business, especially in management, and it's called trust but verify. And trust but verify means that you trust that whatever you're asking of someone to get done, you're trusting that they'll get it done. But it is a smart practice to verify that they did do it. So what I'm going to do going forward is implore in this YouTube realm, trust but verify. The trust but verify principle. Because whenever I seem to not do the verify and I just do the trust, and then when I finally dig in and do the verify, yeah, it turns out I shouldn't have put my trust in it. So, what am I talking about? Well, I decided to check in on a couple of key players in this whole scenario that we call the Idaho 4 case. One of the key players, somebody that I've brought up many times, I firmly believe is the informant in the case, but plays a dual role. He's the informant in the case. He's also an active participant, in my opinion, in the atrocity itself. And he goes by the initials TF. And y'all know who I'm referring to. You know, it's been stated out there that TF is just he's in the general population in the penitentiary for his crimes, right? And if he was an informant working with law enforcement, well, then he would be somebody easy to get to. Heard that stated. And then we've got the mother of one of the victims in the atrocity, who I've stated on many occasions was working with law enforcement as an informant. And the way that you can determine that is based on the tremendous prior arrest history, same with both of them, and the lack of actual consequences to all of their actions. You see, that's what tells the story when it comes to informants. They don't do it for no reason. They do it for lenient sentences. But I've been told through the YouTube sphere that the mama, well, if she was an informant for, you know, dangerous organizations, then why is she on the general population prison yard where the Featherwoods could get to her? And that kind of hit home for me, you know, for a little bit. Yeah, why the heck is she? Maybe, well, she's already paid her debt. You know, I come up with a lot of reasons in my mind without diving in, digging in, and going and seeing for myself. Well, folks, glad to bring you this episode because, you know, as old Pavarotti likes to do, he investigated. And guess what he's found? He's found some information for you, and he's going to share it in this video. And I think it will shock you like it shocked me. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
These individuals are known by a variety of names, including cooperating witnesses, witness collaborators, justice collaborators, and state witnesses. There is no moral element involved in their motivation to cooperate. Many of them cooperate with the expectation of receiving immunity, or at least a reduced prison sentence and physical protection for themselves and their families. The benefit to collaborators is not complete immunity for their involvement in criminal activities, but rather a sentence reduction that may be granted only at the end of their full cooperation in the trial process. And they provide that justice collaborators must serve some prison time for their crimes. Within the penitentiary system, special measures are required to protect the life of justice collaborators. A special branch of the prison administration usually administers them in coordination with the protection unit. They include A. Separation from the general prison population. D. Isolation in separate detention units at the prison, or even in special prisons. The prison administration may place them in an inmate monitoring program and house them separately from other prisoners who are known to pose a danger to them.
Now, I'm not going to go through the entire arrest history and, the legislature statute on sentencing or habitual offender or anything like that, but because I've done it plenty of times in the past. But we've got the mama here in the case that we clearly believe to be an informant against these criminal organizations. And this is something I put up in the past with listing some of the prior arrests that she's had, which would indicate that she would be doing a lot of prison time right now. And thanks to one of my detractors putting out a video trying to she's trying to debunk my theory and inadvertently gave me this information, which I had never found because this information never made it to her actual arrest record in court. But you can see here, Airway Heights, Washington, charged with trafficking, H-E-R-O-I-N, trafficking, H-E-R-O-I-N, trafficking, and possession of METH, both felonies. Bond set at $20,000. And that doesn't include her latest charges of possession with intent to delivery, felony. These are sentences that should give her years and years and years. Now, what have we been told? She's gotten years and years and years, though, Pavarotti, and I haven't listed her 8 arrests at Airway Heights for thieving and criminal trespass, as well as all of the arrests for failure to appear. And there's so many arrests I can't even begin to describe. But let's take a look at where she's really at these days and what really happened to her. Well, you can see this is the information on her custody orders, and she has been sentenced for 2 different counts. You can see there, and you can see her sentence satisfaction date, as you've heard people like Vivian state, she's in there until 2030. Well, that is a long time. That should really add up in the criminal justice system then. But wait, when we look down here at the bottom, it says parole eligibility date. That's in 2026, so that's still a long time, couple of years. But wait, retained jurisdiction end date. 1/31/25. So the retained jurisdiction end date is January 31st of next year. Now, she was sentenced in April, I believe, of this year. So that's that's about 8 months for all that prison time that she would have got. But she's in the yard, right? She's in that high dangerous prison, and that high dangerous prison yard. So that should make up for it. Well, let's take a look at what this retained jurisdiction thing is and see if that negates all of these 2028 and 2030 prison term years. Let's see. Oh, by the way, look over here too before I go. South Boise Women's Correctional Center, Unit 2, in Kuna, Idaho. Let's remember that, the South Boise Women's Correctional Center, Unit 2. Now, what does this retained jurisdiction in Idaho mean? Okay, retained jurisdiction is a rider/court. Retained jurisdiction, often called a rider, is a sentencing option available to judges in Idaho. Clients sentenced to a rider are incarcerated in an IDOC facility, but are under the judge's jurisdiction as they receive treatment and programming. Sentencing judges can place the resident on probation upon successful completion of the rider, or they can relinquish jurisdiction and sentence them to prison based on their behavior and progress during the retained jurisdiction period. Okay, because she is in there on this rider until January 31st of 2025, that means that the judge, the court, still owns her. If he was to release her on a sentence, then the IDOC would own her. They don't. The judge does. So upon completion of the rider sentence, the judge simply releases her and puts her on probation. Now, does that sound like she's sentenced to long prison terms and being in there till 2030? She'll walk January 31st, 2025. Okay, and this hardened, very dangerous unit that she's in that penitentiary is the South Boise Women's Correctional Center, SBWCC. Let's see, what does it say? The South Boise Women's Correctional Center is a treatment and transition facility for retained jurisdiction rider female residents. The SBWCC has an operating capacity of 306 residents in 2 separate housing units. Programming opportunities are based on cognitive and behavioral change through intensive treatment, education, and accountability. Man, that don't even sound like a prison. That sounds like what we used to call the DCC, the Department of Community Corrections. And it's not a prison at all. In fact, it's just a treatment facility masquerading as a prison. But I thought she was on prison yards and these Featherwoods were coming after her. Well, let's take a look. All right, so here is that facility here, and well, you can see there's looks like a couple of different housing units. Now there's some grass. They don't really look like prison yards. Wait a minute, maybe this thing over here to the right. Look, that big prison yard. Wait a minute, it's got a fence. No, that's a backstop. Those are bases. That's a softball field. Okay, so I'm sure there's a prison yard here somewhere. You know what? It doesn't have any fences around this particular prison. I mean, it doesn't even have a fence. It's just wide open facility. I don't think they put the hardened criminals in this one. Yeah, I don't think maybe inside's different. There must be some real dangerous activity going on in there. The Featherwoods would, absolutely be getting her inside this one, right? Let's take a look at at all the things that goes on in this hardened facility. Okay, this must be where the gang acted. No, this is this is art class. Okay, this is art class. Okay, so the gangs don't come in there and take out the informants in this particular area, because these are just women going to art class in this prison. Now this must be where it gets really dangerous. Yeah, look what they've got. No, this is this is where they teach them how to properly take care of babies. Okay, all right. Those Featherwoods there, they just don't look too tough. I don't know. Maybe they're not Featherwoods. Maybe they're in the real prison. Now, this must be gang affiliation day, where they take the the group photos of the female gangs. So let's no, it don't really look that way. So you know what? This South Boise Women's Correctional Center, it's not a prison at all. It's just a treatment facility for protected inmates. I wonder how she got in there. And why aren't these Featherwoods running around trying to take her out? And where's this yard I keep hearing about that's so dangerous? Well, you can't believe everything you hear on the internet, can you? So doing that little deep dive into the mama in the case showed me exactly what I would expect to see if I was looking for somebody who was an informant. With all of those prior charges, trafficking, possession with intent. I mean, the legislature, if they followed those statutes, she would be in prison well beyond 2030. But she's not. She's not in prison until 2030. She'll be out January 31st, here in just a couple of months. She'll spend 8 months not in prison. She's not in a prison. She's not in some prison yard where there are, Aryan Brotherhood's female versions, the Featherwoods, would be taking her out. She never even made it to one of those facilities. She's in the little protected facility next to those facilities where there aren't even any fences. There isn't a yard. There isn't any gang members out that could get her. It's exactly what I would expect to find. The sentencing and the facility. Exactly what I would expect to find. Now, let's put her out of the way because that's verified. Now let's go to the other one, TF. He's a little bit more difficult to pin down because, as we remember, this guy has 45 prior arrests. He was charged with drug trafficking twice inside of 12 months. Never went to prison. He finally was sentenced on a probation violation, if you can believe that, by Judge John Judge on April 17th at the behest of the prosecutor, Bill Thompson. And it just happened to be the exact same day that Bill Thompson filed his response to the alibi, stating that he would put a list of witnesses together in the Kohberger case. Now, I would expect to look at his sentence, and I would expect him to be out somewhere prior to the trial. But I would also expect to find him in some protective custody unit inside the Department of Corrections. Well, it's a little bit more challenging to find the protective custody unit inside the Department of Corrections for the men. They don't just put that out there for everybody to see. You have to actually investigate. You have to dig. And I did. What did I find? Let me show you. Now we've got TF here. And you can see that he is in the IDOC in custody. And he's in the Idaho State Correctional Center, H Block, in Kuna, Idaho. He's in there for just a simple controlled substance possession, even though he's got all these drug trafficking charges. And you'll see that his parole eligibility date is March of 2025. So that means he would have actually done 11 months in this prison facility. Now, I guess the question is, that puts him out just right before trial like we would expect to see. But the real question is, what is H Block in this hardened criminal facility down there in Kuna? Because Kuna, that's where the big dogs are, right? Let's take a look. Okay, here's the Idaho Correctional Center, the Idaho State Correctional Center, not to be confused with the Idaho State Correctional Institution. But you can see this is a pretty stout looking place with all these buildings here and prison yards. I mean, it looks pretty, serious. Now, I wonder which one of these buildings, though, is Block H, and what is it used for? Like I said, they don't advertise that stuff, so you have to really dig deep to figure things out in this case. But here is H Block right here. You'll notice it looks different than all the rest of the buildings in this facility. I wonder why. Let me show you something I found out about H Block after doing some investigating. Okay, I had to go through many court cases to actually find this one, and this is out of an actual case. But you'll see it says that has failed to provide an effective alternative to incarceration and has deliberately allowed the population of the ISCC, the Idaho State Correctional Center and the IDOC as a whole with the commissions of pardon and parole to increase beyond the capacity for which ISCC blocks B, C, and H were originally built for, thereby causing overcrowding conditions to exist in triple and quadruple cubicles in blocks B and C, and place cots in H block. Cots in H block. Let's see what that's for. Specifically, B and C blocks were designed for a total of 504 inmates, but IDOC presently houses 824 prisoners in those blocks. Block H evidently was designed to be in quotations, worker building for prisoners. Read that again. Block H evidently was designed to be a worker building for prisoners, in quotation. I believe that is their way of saying it is a special protection unit for prisoners, but it's definitely not like the other blocks in the prison. And then you can see I found this in a blog, and it's Idaho State Correctional Center prisoners receive cold showers for Christmas, and they wish for coal. Now this was December 29, 2022. For more than a week before Christmas 2022, the ISCC, and you'll see in parentheses it says except Unit H, a standalone prefabricated building housing minimum custody prisoners, has had no hot water in the facility after an article published on this site wherein I complained that there was little to no hot water in the facility. Prison staff started monitoring water temperature. Since then, thermometers consistently registered the hot water temperatures in the facility between 57 and 66 degrees Fahrenheit, the same temperature measured on the cold water side. So they had no hot water anywhere in the Idaho State Correctional Center except Unit H, a standalone prefabricated building housing minimum custody prisoners, protected prisoners. So let's take a look over here in Kuna, Idaho, where all of these big prison complexes are. Now look at this one. You talk about serious right here. This smaller one over here is the intake unit for the Idaho State Correctional Institute. So you've got the smaller one that does the intake, but then you've got this one here. Now you talk about, look at here, look at these fences, look at these yards. And I mean, this is some serious stuff. They're not messing around. This is the maximum security prison. This is the penitentiary. This is the one that, where it's very, very, very dangerous, I assure you. So massive complex right here. This is a real prison, okay? Let's back out. Now let's go over here just across the way. Now this is where Mr. TF is being housed. And this is called the ISCC. This is the Correctional Center. Now look, you'll see it's got all these same big housing units for the prisoners. And then there's the yards. I'm sure, very dangerous. It houses minimum and medium security prisoners in here. But you see this little building over here? This little prefab building that's blocked off from everything else. You didn't have yards that other inmates are in. It's just this little prefab specialty block H unit. So yeah, just a little bit different than regular custody, in a much less security prison itself, and then in the safety block in there. Now look over here just down the road. This is where the mama is. This is that Boise women's facility. Now you're going to notice in this, looky here. Yep, you're going to notice there's not even any fences. There's a little gate right there, but not a fence. There's no fences. There's a little fence around this little yard here. That might be where they put the bad girls, that are being bad. But There's nothing here. Like maybe this is like an administration building. Here's a couple of dorms. I mean, this is a country club right here without fences, folks. This isn't a look. Here's their yard. It's a softball field complete with bases and a backstop. You got to be freaking kidding me. Yeah. So everything that we would expect to see from confidential informants and around this case is what we actually see. It's right there in front of us. And that's what blows my mind. I'm beginning to think, people like Vivian isn't just some misinformed lady. I'm beginning to think she actually is misinforming on purpose for some reason. Either that or she's just really dense. But we've got, this video's coming out Tuesday, so we've got I'm going to do one more video tomorrow. I've got something that I really want to discuss with you. And then on Thursday, we've got the hearing, I believe. And I will be providing coverage of the hearing after it's over. And we'll discuss, what we learned in the hearing, if we gain any new facts. And then once that hearing is over, well, we've got just the rest of November and December and a little bit of January until that crucial hearing on the motions to suppress and other evidence is going to be heard. So I want to get out as much information as I can between that time and that hearing, because that hearing is crucial. And I've got a series that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be an undeniable series based on the facts that the law enforcement has put forward, how there's no way possible for Kohberger to have committed the crime. But we'll get into all that then. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody out there, but when you put in as much time and effort into something as I have, and then you hear conflicting information, and even I started to believe it. I had to go in and dig in and verify, and sure enough, I found exactly what I was looking for, just like I thought I would. It just kind of frustrates me. So I was a little bit fired up in this one. I will continue on my path, and I have been continuing to dig in to the real perpetrators in the atrocity. I assure you, and I have found even more as always. I will be sharing with you here in the next couple of weeks. But please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.